a fog-shrouded shipyard, a daring team rebuilds the Titanic, not as a mere ship, but as a cosmic vessel powered by an ancient star map. As they sail into a sea where waves glow with starlight and ghosts whisper from the past, they awaken a force older than time itself. Facing 12 trials of Gothic horror and cosmic wonder, from shadowy abysses to star-cursed gates, the crew must confront their deepest fears and make heart-wrenching sacrifices to break an eternal curse. Will they sail into eternity as legends, or be lost forever in the cosmos' dark embrace? Chapter 1. The Awakening of the Ghost Ship. In the cold, misty town of Southampton, where the sea met the land like old friends shaking hands, a strange thing happened one foggy night. It was the year 2025, but the air felt like it came from 100 years ago. The old shipyard, full of rust and forgotten dreams, sat quiet under the moon. Workers had long gone home, leaving only the waves to whisper secrets to the docks. Dr. Elena Thorne was not like most people. She was a smart lady who loved old stories and stars in the sky. Her hair was dark like night, and her eyes sparkled with wonder. She worked in a big museum, but her real love was the Titanic, that famous ship that sank in 1912, taking so many lives with it. Elena had read every book, seen every picture. She dreamed of bringing it back, not just in tales, but for real. One day, she found an old map in a dusty box. It was hidden in her grandpa's attic. The map showed stars and sea paths mixed together, like a puzzle from space. Strange words were written on it, words that looked like they came from old books about magic and the unknown. Elena felt a chill, but she could not stop. She thought maybe this map could help rebuild the Titanic. Not just any ship, but one that could sail through time or even the stars. She gathered a team. There was Captain Marcus Hale, a tough man with a beard like steel wool. He had sailed every ocean and lost his best friend to a storm. Then there was young Tim, a boy of 18 who fixed machines like they were toys, and Lila, a girl with a gift for seeing things others missed, like ghosts or hidden doors. They started work in secret. The shipyard boss let them use the place at night, thinking it was just a fun project. But Elena knew it was more. They used new metal, strong like diamonds, and old plans from the first Titanic. As they built, strange things began. Tools moved on their own. Lights flickered with no reason. One night, Tim swore he heard singing from the water, sad songs about lost love. Elena ignored the signs at first. She was too excited. The map had a spot marked with a star, saying, "Awaken the sleeper." She thought it meant the ship. So, on a full moon night, they finished the hull. It looked just like the old Titanic, grand and tall with funnels reaching for the sky. But inside, they added special engines, ones that could use star power, or so Elena hoped. As the clock struck midnight, a storm rolled in. Thunder boomed like angry giants. Lightning flashed, painting the ship in white light. Elena stood on the deck, holding the map. "It's time," she said. Her team nodded, hearts pounding. She read words from the map, old words that twisted her tongue. The air grew thick, like soup. The sea churned, waves slapping the ship like hands clapping. Then, a big crack of light split the sky. It hit the ship, right in the heart. The Titanic shook. Metal groaned like a waking beast. Lights inside turned on by themselves, glowing blue like ghost fire. Elena felt a pull, like the ship was alive. "What have we done?" whispered Lila, her face pale. From the depths below, bubbles rose. Old things floated up, bits of wood from the real Titanic, rusted but shining new. They stuck to the new ship like magnets. The hull grew stronger, patterns of stars etched into the steel. Captain Hale grabbed the wheel. "She's moving!" he yelled. The ship slid into the water without help, ropes snapping free. The team ran to stations, scared but thrilled. As they sailed out, the fog thickened. Stars above twinkled oddly like eyes watching. Elena looked back at the shore, fading away. "This is it," she thought. The Titanic sails again. But deep in the hold, something stirred. A shadow, cold and old, whispered names of the dead. The cosmic map had not just rebuilt a ship. It had opened a door to the stars and the dark things hiding there. The voyage began calm. The sea was flat like glass. The team explored the decks. Rooms were fancy, with wood panels and crystal lights. But echoes lingered, like footsteps from nowhere. Tim found a room full of old trunks. He opened one. Inside, clothes from 1912, fresh, as new. How? He wondered. Lila touched a dress, and visions came. A lady dancing, then screaming as water rose. Elena studied the map more. It showed paths not on Earth maps, lines to stars like Orion and the Big Dipper. This ship can go beyond, she said, to places where space and sea meet. Captain Hale laughed, but uneasy. Space? We're sailors, not astronauts. That night, as they slept, dreams came. Elena dreamed of a vast black space, stars swirling like a storm. A voice boomed, "You have awakened me, now pay the price." She woke, sweating. The ship rocked gently, but outside her window the stars seemed closer, bigger than normal. In the morning they found strange marks on the deck, swirls like galaxies, burned in. Meteor dust? Tim guessed. No, Lila knew. It's a sign. From the cosmos. Gothic tales speak of ships cursed by stars. They pressed on. The engines hummed with power from the lightning strike. Speed built, faster than any ship. Days passed. The sea changed. Water glowed at night, like fireflies under waves. Fish jumped, but with eyes like stars. One evening, a fog bank loomed, thick, gray, swallowing light. "Steer clear," Hale ordered. But the wheel turned on its own. Into the fog they went. Whispers filled the air, voices calling names. "John? Is that you?" a voice said. Tim froze. It was his grandma's voice, dead years ago. More voices came, from the past. Passengers from the old Titanic begging for help. Elena rallied them. "It's tricks. Stay strong." But deep down, she feared. The map had warned of trials. Out of fog, an island appeared, not on charts. Tall cliffs, black rocks like teeth, a castle ruins on top, Gothic spires piercing clouds. "Let's check it," Elena said. "Maybe answers there." They anchored. Rowed to shore. The beach was pebbles, cold wind howling. Up the path, vines grabbed at feet. The castle door creaked open alone. Inside, dust and webs. A big hall with paintings of ships and stars. One painting showed the Titanic, but sailing through space, comets trailing. An old man waited in shadows. "You came," he rasped. "The awakeners." "Who are you?" Hale asked. "The keeper. The map you used? It's from the stars." The Titanic was not just a ship. It was a key to cosmic doors. He told a tale. Long ago, builders of Titanic hid secrets, cosmic energies in the design. When it sank, those energies slept. Now, awakened, the ship could sail to other worlds, but with Gothic curses, ghosts, darkness, trials. "You must face 12 tests," the keeper said. "One per chapter of the stars." Elena nodded. "We will." Back on ship, they set sail. The island vanished like smoke. Now the real journey began. Stars guided them, but shadows followed. As night fell, a comet streaked. The ship lifted slightly, waves parting. "She's flying," Tim gasped. No, but close. The Titanic that sailed again was no normal boat. It bridged sea and sky, earth and cosmos. Gothic horrors waited. Cosmic wonders too. The team bonded, stories shared by lantern light. Hale spoke of lost seas, Lila of visions, Tim of dreams. Elena wrote in her journal, "We have stirred old powers. May we survive the beauty and terror." The chapter closed with a bang. A cosmic storm brewed, lightning with colors of rainbows. The ship plunged in, ready for what came next. Chapter 2. Shadows from the deep cosmos. The storm roared like a beast from a nightmare. Waves slammed against the new Titanic, tall as houses, cold as winter's breath. Wind screamed through the rigging, tearing at sails that weren't even there. Elena Thorne gripped the railing, her knuckles white, salt spray stinging her face, like tiny needles. The sky churned with clouds, black and heavy, lit by flashes of purple and green lightning, colors no sailor had ever seen. It wasn't a storm from Earth. It felt alive, angry, like the cosmos itself was shouting. Captain Marcus Hale wrestled the wheel, his beard dripping with rain. "This ain't natural," he bellowed over the gale. "No storm moves like this." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed fear, wide and searching the dark. Below deck, Tim scrambled through the engine room, his boots slipping on wet metal. The engines glowed, not with fire, but with a strange blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Gauges spun wild, needles dancing. "She's pulling power from the storm," Tim yelled up the stairs, voice cracking. He was only 18, but he knew machines like a poet knows words. This wasn't normal. The engines, built with Elena's star-powered designs, were drinking the storm's energy like a thirsty beast. Lila stood frozen on the deck, her long braids swinging in the wind. Her gift, seeing things others couldn't, made her tremble now. In the flashes of weird lightning, she saw shapes in the clouds. Not just shadows, but things with edges like giant hands reaching down or eyes staring from the sky. "The cosmos is awake," she whispered to Elena. "We stirred it. It's not happy." Elena clutched the old map, its edges frayed but glowing faintly under her fingers. The strange words on it, written in a language older than any book, seemed to pulse with the storm. She'd read them to awaken the ship, and now the world felt different, like a door had opened to a place no one should go. "Stay strong," she told the team, though her own heart pounded like a drum. The storm grew wilder. Thunder boomed, shaking the ship's bones. A wave hit, drenching everyone. Then the whispers started, faint at first, like wind through leaves. "Why did you bring us back?" a voice hissed, cold and sad. "You stole us from rest." Elena spun, looking for the source. Nothing but rain and dark. Then, in a flash of green lightning, she saw her. A woman in a white dress, soaked, her hair hanging like seaweed. Her eyes were empty, black as the sea below. She pointed at Elena. "Thief of time," she said, her voice cutting through the storm. Then she was gone, swallowed by the dark. "Ghosts," Lila said, teeth chattering. "From the old Titanic. They're tied to this ship." Hale cursed, gripping the wheel tighter. "Ghosts don't scare me, storms do. Keep her steady." Tim ran up from below, face pale. "The engines, they're too strong now." "Like they're alive. I don't know what's feeding them." Elena looked at the map again. The star paths glowed brighter, lines twisting toward a spot marked the Deep Veil. She didn't know what it meant, but it felt important. "We keep going," she said. "This storm is a test." The night dragged on, the storm relentless. Waves tossed the ship like a toy. Lightning showed glimpses of impossible things, stars too close, swirling like fireflies, and shapes in the water, too big to be fish. The whispers grew louder, calling names. Mary, John, Elizabeth. Names from 1912, from the passenger lists Elena had studied. Tim froze, his wrench clattering to the deck. "That voice," he stammered. "It's my grandma. She died years ago. How's she here?" "It's not her," Lila said, grabbing his arm. "It's the ship. It's pulling memories, playing tricks." Elena nodded, but doubt crept in. The map had warned of trials, but this felt personal, like the cosmos was digging into their hearts. At dawn, the storm broke. The sky cleared, revealing a sea calm as glass. But the stars above were wrong, too many, too bright, arranged in patterns no one recognized. The air felt heavy, like it carried secrets too big for words. Hale called everyone to the bridge. "Check. Everything," he ordered. "This ship's not right." They found the logbook open, though no one had touched it. Words were scrawled in old, spidery ink. "Beware the shadows that follow." The writing wasn't theirs. Tim shivered. "This is bad." Elena traced the words. The map said we'd face tests. This is one. We keep moving. Days passed. Quiet but tense. The sea changed. By night, it glowed faintly, like fireflies trapped underwater. Fish jumped, but their eyes shone like tiny stars, unnatural and cold. The air smelled of metal and something sweet, like flowers from another world. One morning, the water turned black, not like oil but like ink, swallowing light. Dead fish floated up, their bodies shimmering with strange patterns. "What's doing?" "This," Tim asked, poking one with a stick. Lila pointed to the horizon. A shape rose from the depths, massive, bigger than the ship. It wasn't a whale or a squid, but something else. Tentacles like shadows, moving without touching water. Its body glowed faintly, pulsing with the same blue as the engines. It lunged, wrapping a tentacle around the bow. Wood groaned. Metal screamed. The ship tilted, throwing everyone to the deck. "Get it off!" Hale shouted. Tim grabbed a flare gun, firing bright red lights into the sky. The creature hissed, a sound like breaking glass, and retreated, its tentacles slipping back into the black water. But as it sank, it left marks on the hull, swirling patterns, like galaxies burned into the steel. "We're marked," Lila said, her voice small. "It knows us now." Elena studied the marks. They matched the map's designs, like the ship was becoming part of the cosmos. "It's not just a creature," she said. "It's a guardian. We're in its territory." That night, Lila found a room she hadn't seen before, tucked deep in the ship. Mirrors lined the walls, old and cloudy. When she looked in one, her reflection showed not the ship's deck, but a starry void, with planets spinning slowly. "The cosmos is leaking in," she told the team. "This ship isn't just sailing, it's crossing worlds." Hale scoffed, but his hands shook. "Worlds? We're sailors, not space travelers." Elena unrolled the map. It showed their path curving toward a cluster of stars, labeled the Shadow Veil. "We're not on Earth's seas anymore," she said. "The map's guiding us somewhere else." The next day, a fog rolled in, thick and gray, swallowing the horizon. Hale steered to avoid it, but the wheel jerked from his hands, turning toward the fog. "She's got a mind of her own," he muttered. Into the fog they went. The air grew cold, the ship silent except for creaks and groans. Then the whispers returned, louder, sharper. "You don't belong here," they said. "Turn back." Tim heard his grandma again, begging him to come home. Lila heard a child crying, calling her name. Hale heard his lost friend, blaming him for the storm that took him years ago. Elena heard her own voice, telling her she'd fail, that the Titanic would sink again. "It's the shadows," Lila said. "They're in our heads, using our fears." Elena rallied them. "Focus on the now. We're together. That's our strength." The fog cleared by nightfall, revealing a sea that sparkled like diamonds. But above, a red planet hung low, angry and bright. Stars swirled around it, like a storm in space. The ship hummed, engines pulsing faster. They found an island at dawn. Not on any map. Black cliffs rose like jagged teeth, topped by ruins of a Gothic castle, its spires piercing the clouds. Vines hung like spider webs, swaying in a wind that didn't touch the sea. "We need answers," Elena said. "Let's go ashore." They anchored and rowed to the beach, pebbles crunching underfoot. The air smelled of salt and something ancient, like old books. The path to the castle was steep, vines grabbing at their boots like fingers. The castle door creaked open on its own. Inside, dust floated in beams of light from cracked windows. A grand hall stretched before them, walls covered in paintings of ships sailing through stars, comets trailing like tears. One showed the Titanic, not in water, but in space, glowing with power. A figure waited in the shadows, an old man, thin as a skeleton, his eyes glowing like the sea. "You came," he rasped. "The awakeners." "Who are you?" Hale demanded, hand on his knife. "The keeper of the veil," he said. "Your map is no accident. It's from the stars. The Titanic was built to cross the cosmos, but men's greed sank it. You've awakened it, but shadows follow. They guard the paths between worlds." "What shadows?" Elena asked, holding the map tight. Beings of the deep cosmos, he said. Older than time. They test those who sail their seas. You face 12 trials, one for each stargate. Lila shivered. The creature in the water. That was one? The keeper nodded. More will come. Stronger. Darker. How do we survive? Tim asked. Together, the keeper said. Trust your hearts. The ship is your shield, but also your curse. He vanished like smoke, leaving only echoes. The paintings glowed faintly, then dimmed. Back on the ship, the island was gone, like it never existed. The sea was calm, but the air felt heavier, like a storm waiting to break. Elena wrote in her journal, "The cosmos is alive, and it's watching us. We've crossed a line, and there's no turning back." The team gathered on the deck, sharing stories to stay brave. Hale told of storms he'd survived. Tim spoke of fixing machines under pressure. Lila shared visions of stars that sang. Elena read from the map, promising they'd face the trials as one. As night fell, a comet streaked across the sky, bright as fire. The ship shuddered, lifting slightly from the water, waves parting below. "Is she flying?" Tim gasped. "Not yet," Elena said, but her eyes were on the stars, closer than ever. The Titanic sailed on, into a sea that was no longer just water. Gothic shadows loomed, cosmic wonders beckoned. The second trial was coming, and it would test them all. Chapter 3. Whispers in the dark halls, the Titanic sailed on, cutting through a sea that shimmered like liquid starlight. The air was heavy, thick with a quiet that felt wrong, like the world was holding its breath. The storm from the night before had faded, but it left scars. Galaxy-like swirls burned into the ship's hull, glowing faintly under moonlight. Elena Thorne stood on the deck, her dark hair loose, blowing in the cool breeze. The old map in her hands felt heavier now, its strange words pulsing like a heartbeat. The ship was alive, but something else was too, lurking in the shadows of its halls. Captain Marcus Hale paced the bridge, his boots thumping on polished wood. His beard was flecked with salt, his eyes sharp but tired. "Too quiet," he muttered. "A ship this big shouldn't be so still." The crew, Elena, Tim, and Lila, nodded, feeling it too. The engines hummed soft, but the usual creaks and groans of a ship were gone, replaced by an eerie silence that made their skin prickle. Tim, the young mechanic, fiddled with a wrench, his freckled face tense. "Engines are fine, but I swear, I heard something last night. Not whispers, but footsteps, like someone's walking behind me." He was only 18, but his knack for fixing things made him bold. Still, his voice shook now. Lila, the seer, clutched her necklace, a small star-shaped pendant. Her gift let her see things, ghosts, glimpses of the future, but now it felt like a curse. "The halls are alive," she said softly. "Something's watching us. Not just ghosts. Something older." Elena folded the map, her heart racing. The keeper from the island had warned of 12 trials, and the creature in the sea was only the first. This silence, these whispers felt like the second. "We stay alert," she said. "Whatever's here, we face it together." That night, Elena walked the lower decks alone, a lantern swinging in her hand. The ship's halls were grand, with polished wood and brass, but shadows danced in corners, stretching longer than they should. The air smelled of old roses and salt, like a memory of 1912. Her footsteps echoed, but sometimes another step followed, faint and out of rhythm. She stopped, heart pounding. "Who's there?" she called. Only silence answered, but the air grew colder, like a breath on her neck. She found a door she didn't remember, half hidden behind a velvet curtain. It creaked open to a ballroom, vast and empty. Crystal chandeliers hung still, catching her lantern's light. A faint hum filled the air, like music from a broken music. Box, slow and sad, shadows moved on the walls, not hers, but shapes of people dancing, their forms blurry like smoke. Elena's breath caught. "Ghosts," she whispered. One shadow sharpened into a man in a suit, his face pale, eyes hollow. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice like wind through dry leaves. You woke the ship. You woke us. He stepped closer and Elena backed up, her lantern shaking. I'm Jack, he said, from the old Titanic. We sank, but you brought us back. Why? Elena swallowed hard. To sail again. To find the stars. Jack's face twisted, half sad, half angry. The stars are not kind. They hold secrets. You can't bear. Turn back. Before she could answer, he faded, the music stopping. The ballroom was empty again, but the air felt heavy, like eyes were still watching. She ran to find the others, heart pounding. In the crew's mess hall they gathered, faces pale under flickering lights. I saw a ghost, Elena said, voice steady despite her fear. He called himself Jack. He said we woke them. Hale snorted, but his hand rested on his knife. Ghosts don't scare me. Storms, creatures, those I can fight. But this... He trailed off, looking at the shadows. Lila spoke up, her voice small. I see them too, in my dreams. Passengers from the old ship, crying, screaming. They're trapped, here, tied to the Titanic. Tim shifted, uneasy. I heard my grandma again down in the engine room. She kept saying, go home, Timmy. But she's been dead 5 years. Elena unrolled the map. The star paths glowed, pointing to a spot labeled the Whispering Gate. The keeper said we'd face trials, she said. This is one. The ghosts, the whispers, they're testing us. That night, the whispers grew louder, seeping into their dreams. Hale dreamed of his lost friend, Tom, who died in a storm years ago. In the dream, Tom stood on a sinking ship, pointing at Hale. You let me die, he said. You'll let them die too. Hale woke sweating, his fists clenched. Tim dreamed of his grandma, standing in the engine room, her voice sharp. You're not good enough, boy. You'll break this ship. He woke crying, doubting his skills for the first time. Lila's dreams were worse. She saw the future, a Titanic burning in a sea of stars, the crew screaming as shadows swallowed them. She woke gasping, her pendant hot against her skin. Elena's dream was her own voice, cold and cruel. You're a fool, Elena. You'll sink this ship again. All their deaths will be on you. She woke with a start, the map clutched in her hands. Morning came, gray and cold. The sea was flat, but the air buzzed like before a storm. They gathered on the bridge, sharing their dreams. It's the whispers, Lila said. They're digging into our fears, trying to break us. Hale slammed a fist on the table. I don't care if it's ghosts or stars. We're sailors. We fight, Elena nodded. We face them together, no one's alone. They decided to explore the ship, to find the source of the whispers. The halls seemed longer now, twisting in ways that didn't make sense. Doors led to rooms that shouldn't exist. Cabins with old furniture, mirrors showing stars instead of reflections. In one room, Tim found a trunk full of letters, written in 1912, begging for rescue. They knew they'd die, he said, voice shaking. Lila stopped at a painting in a hall showing the Titanic sailing through a black sky, comets trailing. This ship was always meant for the stars, she said, but something went wrong. The ghosts are angry because they were betrayed. Elena thought of Jack's words. He said the stars aren't kind. Maybe the old Titanic was part of something bigger, something cosmic. They reached the grand staircase, its gold rails gleaming under ghostly light. The whispers were loudest here, a chorus of voices, men, women, children, all from 1912. Help us, they begged. Free us. Lila clutched her pendant, eyes wide. They're trapped in the ship's heart. We need to find it. They descended, deeper into the ship, past boiler rooms and storage. The air grew colder, the walls damp. In the lowest hold, they found a door, heavy iron covered in star patterns like the hull. It pulsed with blue light, like the engines. Elena touched it, and the whispers screamed so loud her ears hurt. Open it, Lila urged. It's the key. Hale kicked the door, and it swung open. Inside was a chamber, walls glowing with starlight. In the center, a crystal, big as a person, pulsed like a heart. Shadows swirled inside it. faces pressing against the surface, ghosts of the old Titanic. "They're trapped here," Lila said. "The ship's power is holding them." Elena stepped closer, the map glowing in her hands. Words appeared on it, new ones. "Speak to the heart. Free the lost." She took a deep breath and spoke, her voice shaking. "We're here to help. Tell us what you need." The crystal flashed, and a voice boomed. Not one, but many. "We were promised the stars. We got death. Free us, or join us." Hale gripped his knife. "How do we free you?" The voices answered, "Sail to the Whispering Gate. Face the trial. Only then will we rest." The crystal dimmed, the whispers fading. The team stood silent, shaken but determined. "We keep going," Elena said. "To the gate." They returned to the bridge, the ship humming beneath them. The sea outside glowed brighter, stars reflecting like a mirror. But the hall stayed dark, whispers lingering like echoes. That night, they took turns keeping watch. Tim sat by the engines, wrench in hand, whispering to himself, "I'm good enough." Lila stared at the stars, her pendant cool again, promising. Herself she'd face her visions. Hale stood at the wheel, muttering to Tom's ghost, "I won't fail them." Elena wrote in her journal, "The ghosts are part of the ship, part of us. We'll free them, or we'll fall trying." Days passed, the whispers softer but never gone. The sea changed again, waves rippling with colors, blue, red, gold, like a painting of the cosmos. The map pointed to a distant light, the Whispering Gate, where the next trial waited. One night a shadow moved on the deck, not a ghost, but something else. Tall and thin, with eyes like stars. It watched them, then vanished. Lila grabbed Elena's arm. "That wasn't a ghost. It's from the cosmos. The next test is coming." The Titanic sailed on, its halls darker, the whispers sharper. The Gothic dread grew, wrapping the crew in fear, but their bond held strong. They were ready, or so they hoped, for what lay ahead. Chapter 4. The Star-Cursed Voyage. The Titanic cut through a sea that no longer felt like water. It shimmered, rippling with colors, blues, purples, and silvers, like a spilled painting of the night sky. Stars above burned too bright, too close, arranged in strange patterns that made Elena Thorne's head spin. She stood on the deck, clutching the ancient map, its edges glowing faintly. The ship hummed beneath her, alive with a power she barely understood, a mix of metal and cosmic energy. The air smelled sharp, like lightning and old flowers, and the silence from the last trial lingered, broken only by faint whispers from the ship's dark halls. Captain Marcus Hale gripped the wheel, his weathered hands steady, but his eyes uneasy. "This ain't no ocean," he said, voice low. "Look at those stars. They're moving." He pointed to the sky, where constellations twisted like living things, forming shapes, faces, hands, ships that vanished when you stared too long. Tim, the young mechanic, poked his head out from below deck, his freckled face smudged with grease. "Engines are running hot," he said. "They're pulling something from the air, like they're hungry. I don't like it." His wrench hung loose in his hand, a sign of his nerves. Lila, her star pendant glinting, stared at the water. Her gift for seeing the unseen made her quiet, her eyes wide. "The sea's alive," she whispered. "It's watching us. The cosmos knows we're here." Elena unrolled the map. The star paths glowed brighter, pointing to a spot labeled the Star-Cursed Gate. The keeper's words echoed in her mind. 12 trials, each harder than the last. The whispers in the halls had been the second. This, she knew, was the third. "We keep going," she said, her voice firm despite the chill in her bones. "The map's leading us. We trust it." That night the sky erupted. Stars fell like rain, streaking across the darkness, leaving trails of fire. Meteors hit the sea, hissing and steaming, sending waves rocking the ship. The crew scrambled to their posts, hearts pounding. "Hold her steady," Hale shouted, wrestling the wheel as the Titanic tilted. A meteor grazed the hull, scraping metal with a scream like a dying animal. Sparks flew, and a faint glow lingered where it struck, etching more galaxy-like swirls into the steel. Tim ran to check the damage, his boots clanging. "It's not a hole," he called back, "but it's like the ship's growing. The marks are spreading." Elena looked at the map. It pulsed, showing their path through the meteor shower, a narrow line between falling stars. "Steer for that gap," she yelled, pointing to a dark patch in the sky where no meteors fell. Hale nodded, sweat beading on his brow. "Easier said than done, Doc." The ship lurched as another meteor splashed nearby, spraying glowing water over the deck. The water burned where it touched, not with heat but with a cold that stung like ice. Then it came, from the sea where the meteor hit. A shape rose, slow and massive. It wasn't a creature like the tentacled thing from before. This was made of light, a shifting form of starfire, its edges sharp like broken glass. It hovered over the water, taller than the ship's funnels, its body pulsing with colors, red, blue, gold. Eyes like comets stared down, unblinking. "What is that?" Tim gasped, clutching a rail. Lila's voice trembled. "It's from the stars, a guardian of the gate." The thing spoke, its voice a hum that shook the air. "You invade our realm," it said. "This ship is not yours. It belongs to the cosmos." Elena stepped forward, heart racing. "We mean no harm," she said. "We're sailing to understand, to connect." The star being's eyes flared. "You woke the sleeper. You bear its curse. Pay the price." Before anyone could move, it lunged, its light body sweeping over the deck. Where it touched, wood charred, metal glowed red hot. The crew dove for cover, but the heat was strange. Not fire, but a cold burn that left frost on their skin. Tim grabbed a hose, spraying water at the creature. It hissed, retreating, but not before leaving a scorch mark shaped like a star. "It's gone," Lila said, panting. "But it cursed us. I felt it." The meteors slowed, the sky calming, but the ship felt different, heavier. Food in the galley tasted like ash, water like metal. Sleep brought no rest, dreams of falling through endless black, stars screaming, in voices too big to hear. Elena gathered the crew on the bridge. "That thing said we're cursed. We need to know what it meant." Hale rubbed his beard. "Cursed or not, we're still sailing." "What's the map say?" She spread it out. The path to the star-cursed gate was clearer now, but new words appeared. "Beware the price of passage." Elena's stomach twisted. "We keep going, but we stay sharp." Days passed, the sea stranger with each mile. Waves moved without wind, curling into shapes like hands or faces before sinking back. The stars above pulsed, some winking out, others flaring bright. The ship's hull glowed at night, the galaxy marks spreading like vines. One morning they saw land. Not an island, but a floating mass, jagged and black, like a piece of night torn free. Towers rose from it, Gothic spires sharp as knives, piercing clouds that swirled with starlight. "That's no natural place," Hale said, gripping. "The wheel. We need to explore," Elena said. "The map points there. It might have answers." They anchored near the mass, its edges crumbling into the sea like dust. A rowboat took them to a shore of black stone, smooth as glass but cold as ice. The air smelled of metal and decay like an old battlefield. A path led up to the towers, lined with statues, figures in old clothes, their stone faces twisted in fear or pain. Lila touched one, then yanked her hand back. "They're not statues," she whispered. "They're people, frozen by something." Tim shivered. "Like the curse?" Elena led the way, map in hand. The towers loomed, their windows dark but glowing faintly, like eyes. Inside, the air was thick, dust floating in beams of light. Walls were carved with star maps, not of Earth's sky, but of places no one knew, galaxies with names in the map's strange script. In a vast hall, they found a stone table, etched with words. "Those who sail the stars pay with soul." Crystal sat on it, like the one in the ship's heart, but cracked. leaking a faint light. Shadows moved inside, not faces but shapes. Hands, eyes, things with too many limbs. Lila's pendant burned against her skin. "This is a warning," she said. "The curse is real. The star being marked us." Hale kicked the table, angry. "I don't believe in curses. We're sailors. We fight." But Elena felt it, a weight in her chest, like something was draining her. "We take what we can learn and go," she said. She sketched the carvings, noting their match to the map's paths. As they left, the ground shook. The towers crumbled, sinking into the sea. The rowboat rocked as they raced back to the Titanic. Behind them, the mass vanished, leaving only ripples. Back, on board, the ship felt colder, the whispers sharper. "You cannot escape," they said, now mixed with new voices, deep like the star beings. "Your souls are ours." Elena wrote in her journal, "The curse is growing. The stars want something from us. We sail to the gate, but I fear the price." The crew bonded over shared fear. Hale told stories of storms he'd faced, his voice steadying them. Tim fixed a flickering light, proving his skill to himself. Lila saw glimpses of the gate in her mind, a ring of stars, pulsing with power. Elena read the map aloud, promising they'd face the trial together. One night, the sea turned to glass, reflecting a sky full of comets. The ship sped up, engines roaring with cosmic energy. A light appeared ahead, bright and cold. The star-cursed gate. Shadows moved in the water, watching, waiting. The crew stood on the deck, hands clasped. The Gothic dread was thick, but so was their resolve. The stars cursed them, but they'd fight to break free, no matter the cost. Chapter 5. Haunted. By forgotten souls, the Titanic glided through a sea that glowed like molten silver, waves rippling with starlight. The air was thick, heavy with a chill that sank into bones. The galaxy-like marks on the ship's hull pulsed faintly, as if the vessel itself breathed. Elena Thorne stood at the bow, her dark hair whipping in the wind, clutching the ancient map. Its star paths shimmered, pointing to a place labeled the Soul's Haven, a name that felt both hopeful and ominous. The crew had survived the star being's curse, but the ship felt heavier, haunted by more than whispers now. Captain Marcus Hale leaned against the railing, his beard flecked with frost from the cold night air. "This ship's alive, but it's not ours anymore," he said, voice gruff. His eyes scanned the horizon, where stars seemed to drip into the sea, blurring the line between sky and water. Tim, the young mechanic, emerged from below deck, wiping sweat from his freckled face. "Engines are humming, but they're pulling too much power," he said, clutching his wrench like a lifeline. "It's like they're feeding on something I can't see." Lila, her star pendant glinting, stared at the deck. Her gift for seeing the unseen made her tremble. "The ghosts are stronger now," she whispered. "They're not just whispering. They're here." Elena nodded, her heart tight. The keeper had warned of 12 trials, and the star being's curse was the third. This, the growing presence of ghosts, felt like the fourth. "We face them together," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. That night, the ghosts came, not as shadows or whispers, but as figures, pale and flickering, crowding the decks. Men in suits, women in long dresses, children clutching toys, all from 1912, their faces etched with sorrow. They moved silently, reliving moments of joy or terror. A woman danced alone, her partner invisible. A man stared at the sea, muttering about ice. A child cried for her mother, her voice echoing in the still air. Elena gathered the crew in the mess hall, lanterns casting long shadows. "They're from the old Titanic," she said. "The map woke them when we rebuilt the ship." Hale gripped, his knife, his knuckles white. "Ghosts don't belong on my ship. How do we get rid of them?" Lila shook her head, her braids swaying. "They're not enemies. They're trapped, tied to the ship's power. They want something." Tim shivered, his voice small. "I saw my grandma again in the engine room. She looked sad, not angry. Kept saying, 'Free me, Timmy.' Elena unrolled the map. The path to the Soul's Haven glowed bright, and new words appeared. Give rest to the lost, or join them. She swallowed hard. We need to help them. They're part of this trial. The next night, the ghosts grew bolder. They filled the grand staircase, their forms clearer, their voices louder. Why did you wake us? A man in a top hat demanded, his eyes black as coal. We were at peace. Elena stepped forward, heart pounding. We didn't mean to trap you. Tell us how to set you free. A girl, no older than 10, in a frilly dress, floated closer. Sail to the light, she said, her voice soft but clear. The bright place. It's where we belong. Lila gasped, clutching her pendant. I see it in my mind. A cluster of stars, shining like a beacon. That's the Soul's Haven. Hale frowned. Change course? What if it's a trick? Elena studied the map. The star paths aligned with Lila's vision. It's our next test. We sail to the light. They set course for the star cluster, the ship humming with purpose. The ghosts seemed to help, their presence calming the sea. Waves parted smoothly, and the engines ran steady, as if guided by unseen hands. But not all ghosts were kind. The lower decks, objects moved, chairs tipped over, tools flew across rooms. A shadowy figure, tall and angry, smashed a mirror, its shards glowing like stars. Tim ducked as a wrench sailed past his head. They're fighting us, he yelled, scrambling to fix a sparking panel. Lila saw more. Some want freedom. Others want revenge. They blame us for waking them. Elena rallied the crew. We focus on the kind ones. They'll guide us. They held a seance in the ballroom, the same place Elena had seen the ghost named Jack. Lanterns flickered as they sat. In a circle, hands linked. Lila led, her voice steady. Spirits of the Titanic, speak to us. What do you need? The air grew cold, the chandeliers rattling. Voices answered, a chorus of sorrow. We were promised the stars, a woman said. We got the deep instead. Sail to the light, free us. A man's voice, sharp and bitter, cut through. You'll sink again. You'll pay for disturbing us. Hale stood, knife drawn. Show yourself, he shouted. A figure appeared, a captain in an old uniform, his face twisted with rage. You're no leader, he spat at Hale. You'll fail them, like I failed my ship. Hale lunged, but the ghost vanished, leaving only a cold wind. The kind ghosts stayed, their forms softer. The girl in the frilly dress floated near Elena. Keep going, she said. The light is close. The seance ended, but the ship felt lighter, as if some ghosts had calmed. The crew sailed on, guided by the map and the star cluster's glow. The sea sparkled, reflecting stars like a mirror. Fish leaped, their scales shining like comets. Days passed, the ghosts a constant presence. They appeared at dusk, walking the decks, some helping, others watching with empty eyes. One night, a ghost woman showed Tim how to fix a jammed valve, her hands guiding his. Another night, a child ghost led Lila to a hidden room full of old photos from 1912, faces smiling before the tragedy. But the angry ghosts grew stronger too. In the engine room, pipes burst, spraying hot steam. Hale fought a shadow in the bridge, its form shifting like smoke. He drove it off with a flare, but his hands shook after. They're testing me, he muttered, trying to break me. Elena kept the crew together, sharing stories by lantern light. Hale spoke of his lost friend Tom, vowing not to fail. Again. Tim talked of his grandma, finding strength in her memory. Lila described her visions of the Soul's Haven, a place of peace where stars sang. Elena read from the map, promising they'd reach the light. As they neared the star cluster, the sea changed. It glowed brighter, waves pulsing with energy. The ghosts grew quiet, their forms fading in and out. The girl in the frilly dress appeared to Elena one night, smiling. You're almost there, she said. Thank you. The Soul's Haven appeared at dawn, a ring of stars, brighter than any sun, floating above the sea. The water below it shone like liquid gold, and the air hummed with a soft, warm song. The ghosts gathered on the deck, hundreds of them, their faces calm for the first time. Elena stood at the bow, map in hand. "This is it," she said. "We're here." The ship sailed into the light, the stars wrapping around it like a warm blanket. The ghosts began to fade one by one, their forms dissolving into sparkles that joined the star cluster. The girl ghost lingered, her smile bright. "We're free," she whispered, then vanished. But one ghost stayed, a dark figure, the angry captain from the seance. His eyes burned red, his voice a hiss. "You think this ends it? The curse lives. You'll pay." He lunged at Elena, but Hale tackled him, both falling to the deck. The ghost screamed, then faded, leaving only a cold spot on the wood. Hale stood, panting. "He's gone. For now." The ship sailed out of the light, the sea normal again, but the air felt cleaner, lighter. The ghosts were mostly gone, their weight lifted. The map glowed, showing the next path, labeled the Voyage's Edge. Elena wrote in her journal, "We freed the souls, but the angry one lingers. The curse isn't broken. We sail on, stronger but wary." The crew gathered, their bond tighter. Hale clapped Tim on the shoulder, praising his work. Lila hugged Elena, her pendant cool again. Tim grinned, his confidence back. They shared a meal, laughing for the first time in days, though the shadow of the angry ghost lingered in their minds. As night fell, the sea sparkled with new stars, and the Titanic sailed faster, engines humming with cosmic power. The next trial waited, darker and deeper, but the crew was ready, their hearts united by the souls they'd saved. Chapter 6. Storms of the void, the Titanic sailed through a sea that no longer felt like Earth's. The water was black as ink, rippling with faint glimmers like distant galaxies. The sky above was empty, not a single star in sight, as if the universe had closed its eyes. The air was silent, heavy, swallowing every sound, the creak of the ship, the hum of the engines, even the crew's breaths. Elena Thorne stood on the deck, clutching the ancient map, its star paths glowing faintly against the darkness. The ship felt alive, its hull pulsing with the galaxy-like marks etched by past trials. But now, a new dread settled in, colder than the sea below. Captain Marcus Hale gripped the wheel, his beard flecked with frost from the chill air. "This ain't right," he muttered, voice barely a whisper. "No stars, no wind, no nothing. It's like we're nowhere." His eyes darted to the horizon, but there was only black, as if the world ended just beyond the ship's bow. Tim, the young mechanic, climbed up from the engine room, his freckled face pale. "Engines are running, but they're quiet," he said, clutching his wrench. "Too quiet, like they're scared." His hands shook, the memory of the ghosts still fresh. Lila, her star pendant cold against her skin, stared into the void. Her gift for seeing the unseen made her shiver. "This isn't just darkness," she whispered. "It's a storm, a void storm. It's coming." Elena unrolled the map. The path to the Voyage's Edge glowed bright, but new words appeared. "Face the silence, or be lost in it." The keeper's warning of 12 trials echoed in her mind. The ghosts had been the 4th trial. This emptiness, this silence, was the 5th. "We stay strong," she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "The map's guiding us. We trust it." That night, the void storm hit. No wind howled, no waves crashed. Instead, a crushing silence swept over the ship, so thick it pressed against their ears. The Titanic rocked gently, but no sound came. Not the groan of wood, not the splash of water. The crew's voices muffled, like shouting underwater. Lanterns flickered, their light dimming as if the darkness ate it. Elena gathered the crew on the bridge, their faces pale under the weak glow. "It's the storm," she said, lips moving but her voice faint. "It's testing us." Hale tried to shout, but his words were soft, like whispers. "How do we fight something we can't hear?" Tim clutched his wrench, eyes wide. "The system, engines, they're not making noise, but they're still running. I checked. It's like they're waiting for something." Lila's pendant, glowed faintly, her eyes distant. "I see things in the void," she said, voice trembling. "Shapes, not ghosts, but bigger, like gods watching us." Before anyone could respond, a voice boomed, not in their ears but in their minds, deep and cold, shaking their bones. "Why do you sail our realm?" it asked. "Mortals do not belong here." Elena's heart raced. She stepped forward, clutching the map. "We seek the stars," she said, her voice muffled but firm. "We mean to learn, to connect." The voice laughed, a sound like breaking stone. "You woke the sleeper. You bear its curse. Prove your worth, or be swallowed." The silence tightened, pressing on their chests. Shadows moved in the dark, not on the ship, but in the sea and sky. Vast shapes, too big to grasp, with eyes like black holes. The crew clung to each other, fear rooting them to the deck. Lila gasped, her pendant burning. "It's a test," she said. "They want us to solve something." The map glowed brighter, revealing a pattern, a maze of light and shadow, etched in starlight. Elena traced it with her finger. "It's a puzzle," she said. "We need to guide the ship through it." Hale nodded, his jaw tight. "Point. The way, Doc. I'll steer." The crew worked together, their movements slow in the heavy silence. Elena called out directions from the map, her voice barely audible. Hale turned the wheel, guiding the Titanic through invisible paths marked only by faint glimmers in the void. Tim ran below, adjusting the engines to keep them steady, his hands guided by instinct. Lila stood at the bow, her visions showing flashes of the maze, paths of light that twisted and turned, leading to a distant glow. The shadows watched, their forms shifting, now a hand, now a face, now a beast with too many eyes. The voice spoke again in their minds. Solve or sink. Hours passed, the silence deafening. The crew's hands shook, their breaths short. The maze was complex, paths looping back, dead ends glowing then fading. Elena's eyes burned from staring at the map, but she kept calling directions. Left, now straight. Hale's knuckles bled from gripping the wheel, but he didn't falter. Tim's tools slipped in his sweaty hands, but he kept the engines alive. Lila's visions blurred, but she whispered what she saw, guiding them through. Finally, a light appeared ahead, a single star, bright as a beacon piercing the void. The map pulsed, the maze complete. The voice spoke, softer now. "You have passed, but the void remembers." The silence lifted, sound rushing back like a wave. The creak of the ship, the hum of the engines, the crew's gasps. They filled the air, almost too loud. The sea shimmered again, stars returning to the sky, but different, arranged in spirals that felt alive. Elena collapsed against a rail, the map heavy in her hands. "We did it," she said, voice hoarse. Hale wiped sweat from his brow. "Barely. That was no storm. That was something else." Tim climbed up, grinning despite his fear. "Engines held. I told you they're tough." Lila clutched her pendant, her face pale. "The void showed me things. Worlds born, worlds dying. It's bigger than us." The ship sailed on, the sea calmer but strange, rippling with colors like a dream. The hull's galaxy marks glowed brighter, as if the void had left its touch. The crew gathered in the mess hall, lanterns casting warm light. They shared stories to shake off the dread. Hale of a storm he outran, Tim of a machine he fixed against all odds, Lila of a vision of hope, stars singing in harmony. Elena read from the map, promising the next trial would be faced together, but the void's touch lingered. That night, each crew member felt it, a weight in their dreams, images of endless black, voices whispering of doom. Elena dreamed of the ship swallowed by a black hole, her crew calling her name. Hale saw his lost friend, Tom, trapped in the void, blaming him. Tim dreamed of engines failing, his hands useless. Lila saw the void's gods judging her, their eyes unblinking. Morning came, gray and cold. The sea sparkled, but the air buzzed with unseen energy. They found marks on the deck, swirls like the void's shadows, etched in frost. "It's not over," Lila said, tracing one with her finger. "The void marked us, like the star being did." Elena studied the map. The path to the void's edge was clear, but new words appeared. "The storm is only the beginning." Her stomach twisted. "We're getting closer to the heart of this," she said. "But it's getting harder." They sailed on, the sea shifting, waves curling into shapes, eyes, hands, stars, before sinking back. The sky filled with new galaxies, swirling like storms. The ship's engines hummed stronger, pulling power from the void itself. One evening, a isolated shadow appeared on the deck. Not a ghost, but something else, tall and thin, its edges blurred like smoke. It had no face, only a glow where eyes should be. It watched them, silent, then vanished into the sea. "That's no ghost," Lila said, her voice shaking. "It's from the void. It's waiting." Hale clenched his fists. "Let it wait. We're not stopping." The crew worked through the days, checking the ship, keeping it strong. Tim oiled gears, his confidence growing. Lila sketched her visions, maps of stars that matched the ship's path. Hale stood at the wheel, his eyes sharp, refusing to let the void scare him. Elena studied the map, piecing together its secrets, her mind racing with questions. One night, the sea turned to glass, reflecting a sky full of spinning galaxies. The ship sped up, engines roaring with cosmic energy. Ahead, a faint glow appeared, the void's edge, a wall of light and shadow, pulsing like a heartbeat. The crew stood together, hands clasped, ready for the next trial. Elena wrote in her journal, "The void tested us, and we survived. But it's not done with us. The shadows are watching, and the curse grows stronger. We sail on, together, into the unknown." The Titanic plunged toward the glow, the sea parting, the sky alive with stars. The Gothic dread wrapped them tight, but the cosmic wonder pulled them forward. The fifth trial was done, but the sixth loomed, darker and deeper, waiting to test their souls. Chapter 7. The Captain's Eternal Curse. The Titanic sailed through a sea that shimmered like shattered glass, each wave catching starlight in jagged sparks. The sky above was a deep violet, streaked with comets that burned too bright, too close, as if the cosmos leaned in to watch. The air was cold, sharp, smelling of metal and something ancient, like dust from forgotten worlds. Elena Thorne stood at the bow, her dark hair tangled by the wind, clutching the ancient map. Its star paths glowed, pointing to a place labeled the Captain's Trial, a name that sent a chill down her spine. The ship's hull pulsed with galaxy-like marks, alive with the power of past trials, but now a new weight hung over the crew, heavy as the void itself. Captain Marcus Hale stood at the wheel, his beard flecked with frost, his eyes sunken. He hadn't slept well since the void storm, and his hands trembled slightly, a secret he hid from the others. "This sea's wrong," he muttered, voice rough. "It's pulling at us like it wants something." The horizon was a blur of light and shadow where sea and sky seemed to melt together. Tim, the young mechanic, climbed up from the engine room, his freckled face smudged with oil. "Engines are fine, but they're acting strange," he said, gripping his wrench tightly. "Like they're sad. I know that sounds crazy." His voice wavered, the strain of the trials wearing on him. Lila, her star pendant cool against her skin, stared at the water. Her gift for seeing the unseen made her quiet, her eyes distant. "Something's wrong with Hale," she whispered to Elena. "I see it. Shadows around him like chains. This trial's about him." Elena nodded, her heart heavy. The Keeper had warned of 12 trials, and the void storm was the 5th. This, the growing darkness around Hale, felt like the 6th. "We watch him close," she said. "He's our strength. We can't lose him." That morning, Hale fell ill. His skin turned pale, almost gray, his eyes glinting with a strange, starry light. He coughed, a dry, rattling sound, and leaned hard on the wheel to stay upright. "I'm fine," he growled when Elena offered help. but his hands shook, and his steps were slow, like he carried a weight no one could see. By noon, he collapsed. Tim and Elena caught him, easing him to the deck. His breath was shallow, his forehead hot. "Just tired," he muttered, but his voice was weak, unlike the gruff captain they knew. Lila knelt beside him, her pendant glowing faintly. "It's the curse," she said. "The star being's mark. It's on him strongest." Elena unrolled the map, her hands trembling. New words appeared. "The leader bears the chain. Break it or lose all." She remembered the keeper's words about the eternal curse on those who lead. "This is his trial," she said. "We need to help him fight it." They carried Hale to his cabin, laying him on a cot. His eyes fluttered, half open, showing whites flecked with tiny stars. "I see. Seas," he mumbled. "Endless. No land. No rest." His words chilled them, like a glimpse of his dreams. Lila's visions came fast. She saw Hale standing on a ship, not the Titanic, but a ghost of one, sailing through a black sky. Chains of shadow bound him, dragging him toward a void. "He's cursed to sail forever," she said, tears in her eyes. "No home, no peace. It's what the star being meant by pay the price." Tim clenched his wrench, his knuckles white. "We can't let that happen. He's our captain." Elena studied the map. It showed a path to a circle of stars labeled the chain's end. "We sail there," she said. "It's where we'll break the curse." The crew took turns. At the wheel, Tim steering with Elena's guidance. The sea grew stranger, waves curling into spirals, reflecting comets that streaked above. The ship's engines hummed low, as if mourning Hale. Ghosts from the last trial lingered, faint and silent, watching from the shadows but not interfering. That night, Hale's fever worsened. He thrashed, muttering about his lost friend, Tom, who died in a storm years ago. "I failed you," he whispered. "I'll fail them too." Elena stayed by his side, wiping his brow, her heart aching. "You won't fail us," she said. "We're with you." Lila found a book in the ship's library, hidden behind a panel. Its pages were old, written in the same script as the map. It spoke of a ritual to break a captain's curse, using light from a star circle and the crew's bond. "We need to reach the chain's end," Lila said, "and we need to believe in him." The sea grew wilder, waves glowing with eerie light, like fire trapped underwater. Shadows moved in the sky, not clouds but shapes, hands, eyes, things with too many limbs. They didn't attack, but their presence pressed on the crew, making the air thick with dread. Tim worked tirelessly, keeping the engines steady. "They're fighting me," he said, wiping sweat from his face. "Like they don't want to go." But he pushed on, his hands sure despite his fear. Lila's visions guided them, showing glimpses of the star circle, a ring of light, pulsing like a heartbeat, surrounded by shadows. "It's close," she said, "but the curse is fighting back." Hale's condition worsened. His skin grew colder, his eyes brighter, like stars trapped inside him. He spoke of endless seas, of sailing forever with no shore. "It's my fault," he said, voice breaking. "I woke the ship. I bear the curse." Elena grabbed his hand. "We woke it together. We'll break this together." The map led them to a reef, glowing under the sea, its coral shaped like stars. The ghosts appeared again, faint but kind, guiding the ship through narrow paths. "They're helping," Lila said, her pendant warm. "They want Hale free too." At dawn, the chain's end appeared. A circle of stars, brighter than any sun, floating above the sea. The water below sparkled, reflecting the light like a mirror. The air hummed with a soft song, like the ghosts' voices from the souls, haven but stronger, full of hope. The crew carried Hale to the deck, his body weak but his eyes open, glinting with starlight. Elena read from the book, her voice steady. "We call on the light of the stars, the bond of our hearts, to break the chain that binds our captain." Lila led the ritual, placing her pendant in Hale's hand. Tim stood close, his wrench tucked away, his faith in Hale unwavering. They formed a circle around him, hands linked as the map glowed bright. The star circle above pulsed, sending beams of light onto the deck, wrapping Hale in warmth. The shadows fought back. Dark shapes rose from the sea, clawing at the ship. The angry ghost captain from before appeared, his eyes red. "He's mine," he roared, lunging at Hale. Elena threw herself between them, holding the map like a shield. The light flared, pushing the ghost back, his scream fading into the void. Hale gasped, his body arching. The starry light in his eyes dimmed, his skin warming. The chains in Lila's vision snapped, falling away like smoke. He sat up, coughing, but stronger. "I'm back," he said, voice gruff but clear. "You didn't give up on me." The star circle faded, the sea calming. The ghosts vanished, their presence lighter, as if thanking the crew. The map glowed, showing the next path, labeled "The Abyss's Secret." Elena wrote in her journal, "We broke Hale's curse, but the shadows linger. The ship carries us deeper, and the trials grow darker. We're stronger now, but the cost is heavy." The crew gathered, their bond tighter than ever. Hale stood tall, his hands steady, thanking each of them with a nod. Tim grinned, proud of his work. Lila clutched her pendant, her visions clearer. Elena read from the map, promising they'd face the next trial together. As night fell, the sea sparkled with new stars, and the Titanic sailed faster, engines humming with renewed power. The Gothic dread still clung to the ship, but the cosmic wonder of the star circle lingered in their hearts, driving them forward to the next test. Chapter 8. Secrets of the Black Abyss. The Titanic sliced through a sea as dark as midnight, its surface smooth but heavy, like liquid shadow. The sky above was a swirling void, not black but a deep purple, flecked with specks of light that weren't stars, more like eyes, watching, waiting. The air was thick, cold, smelling of iron and something sour, like a storm that never broke. Elena Thorne stood at the bow, her dark hair damp from the mist, clutching the ancient map. Its star paths glowed faintly, pointing to a place labeled "The Abyss's Secret," a name that twisted her stomach with dread. The ship's hull pulsed with galaxy-like marks, alive with the energy of past trials. But now a new fear gripped the crew, deeper than any before. Captain Marcus Hale stood at the wheel, his beard streaked with frost, his eyes sharp despite the weight of his recent curse. "This sea's alive," he said, voice low. "It's pulling us down like it wants to swallow us whole." The horizon was gone, lost in a haze where sea and sky bled into one. Tim, the young mechanic, climbed up from the engine room, his freckled face pale, hands smudged with grease. "Engines are running hot," he said, gripping his wrench. "They're pulling something from the water like it's fuel. But it feels wrong." His voice trembled, the trials wearing him thin. Lila, her star pendant cold against her skin, stared into the dark. Her gift for seeing the unseen made her shiver. "There's something below us," she whispered. "A black abyss. It's alive and it knows we're here." Elena nodded, her heart pounding. The keeper had warned of 12 trials, and the captain's curse was the 6th. This, the pull of the abyss, was the 7th. "We stay together," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. "The map's guiding us. We trust it." That night, the sea changed. A low hum rose from below, not sound but a vibration, shaking the ship's bones. The water churned, forming a whirlpool ahead, its center blacker than night, swallowing light. The crew gathered on the deck, lanterns flickering, their faces pale. "It's a black hole," Tim said, voice cracking. "In the sea." Hale gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. "We can't outrun it. It's pulling us in." Elena unrolled the map. It glowed brighter, showing a path spiraling into the whirlpool with words, "Enter the abyss. Learn its truth." Her stomach twisted. "We have to go in," she said. "It's the trial." Lila's pendant burned, her eyes wide. "I see. Things down there, secrets, truths about the universe. But it's dangerous. It wants something from us. Tim shook his head, clutching his wrench. Go into that? You're crazy. Hale growled. We've faced worse. Hold on tight. The ship plunged toward the whirlpool, the sea roaring like a beast. The crew braced, tying ropes to rails, their hearts pounding. The Titanic tilted, drawn into the spiral, water rushing over the deck. Darkness swallowed them, the sky vanishing, the air so heavy it pressed on their chests. Inside the abyss, sound died. No creaks, no waves, only silence. The ship floated in a void, not water but something else, thick and cold. Lights flickered, then went out, leaving only the map's glow. Shadows moved in the dark, vast shapes, not creatures but ideas, forms of thought too big to grasp. Eyes watched, not with malice but with curiosity, like gods studying ants. A voice spoke in their minds, deep and slow, like the heartbeat of a dying star. You seek our secrets, it said, but knowledge has a price. What will you give? Elena stepped forward, clutching the map. We want to understand, she said, her voice muffled in the void. We'll pay what's fair. The voice laughed, a rumble that shook their bones. Fair? The abyss takes what it wants. The shadows closed in, wrapping the ship. Visions came, unbidden, flooding their minds. Elena saw the birth of stars, galaxies spinning from dust, worlds burning to ash. The knowledge was vast, beautiful, but heavy, pressing on her soul. She gasped, falling to her knees, the map glowing, hot in her hands. Hale saw seas that stretched forever, ships sailing through time, their captains cursed like him. His heart ached, but he stood tall, refusing to break. Lila saw the universe's end, a cold silence where nothing lived, and her pendant burned, grounding her. Tim saw machines beyond his dreams, powered by stars, but their complexity made him feel small, useless. The voice spoke again. Choose one to give or all are lost. Elena's heart stopped. Give what? The shadows tightened and Tim screamed. A tendril of darkness wrapped him, pulling him toward the abyss's heart. His wrench fell, clattering on the deck. No, he yelled, clawing at the air. Hale lunged, grabbing Tim's arm. You're not taking him, he roared, pulling with all his strength. Elena and Lila joined, their hands locked, dragging Tim back. The shadow fought, its grip cold, but the crew's bond was stronger. Tim collapsed on the deck, gasping, his eyes wide with terror. The voice rumbled, almost amused. Your bond is your strength, but the abyss keeps its price. Tim shook, his voice small. I saw things, too much. How stars die, how time bends. It's in my head now. Elena knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. You're still you. We've got you. The map glowed, showing a path out of the abyss to a place of light. The shadows retreated, the voice fading. You have taken our secrets, it said. They will weigh you down. The ship shuddered, rising from the whirlpool. Light returned, faint at first, then bright, as the sea reappeared, sparkling with starlight. The sky was alive again, filled with galaxies spinning like wheels. The crew stood panting, shaken but whole. Tim sat against a rail, his face pale. I'm not the same, he said. I know too much. It hurts. Lila touched his arm, her pendant. Cool. We'll carry it together. You're not alone. Hale clapped Tim's shoulder. You're tougher than you think, kid. Elena studied the map. New words appeared. The weight of truth is the price. The path led to the stars. Embrace the next trial. We learned something, she said, but it cost us. The sea calmed, but the air felt heavier, as if the abyss's secrets lingered. The hull's galaxy marks glowed brighter, pulsing with the knowledge they'd gained. The crew worked to steady the ship, Tim checking the engines despite his shaken mind, Hale steering with renewed focus, Lila sketching her visions of the abyss's truths. That night, they gathered in the mess hall, lanterns casting warm light. They shared stories to ease the weight, Hale of a storm he outran, Tim of a machine he fixed against odds, Lila of a vision of hope, stars singing in unity. Elena read from the map, promising they'd face the next trial together. But the abyss's touch lingered. Dreams came, heavy with cosmic truths. Elena saw stars born from chaos, their light blinding. Hale saw endless voyages, his curse threatening to return. Lila saw the universe's heart, beating with secrets too vast to hold. Tim dreamed of machines that built themselves, their power terrifying. Morning brought a sea of liquid silver, reflecting, a sky full of comets. The ship sailed faster, engines humming with the abyss's energy. A shadow appeared on the horizon, not a creature, but a wall of darkness, pulsing with faint light. The star's embrace waited, the next trial looming. Elena wrote in her journal, "The abyss gave us knowledge, but it took a piece of us. Tim carries it heaviest, but we're stronger together. The trials grow darker, but we sail on." The crew stood on the deck, hands clasped, their bond a shield against the Gothic dread. The cosmic wonder of the abyss's secrets pushed them forward toward the next test, where the stars would demand more. Chapter 9. Ghosts Among the Stars. The Titanic sailed through a sea that sparkled like a shattered mirror, each wave catching glints of light from a sky ablaze with stars. The heavens were no longer just a dome above, but a living tapestry, galaxies spinning in patterns that seemed to breathe. The air was sharp, tinged with a strange sweetness, like flowers blooming in space. Elena Thorne stood at the bow, her dark hair loose in the cool breeze, clutching the ancient map. Its star paths glowed fiercely, pointing to a place labeled the Star's Embrace, a name that felt both warm and menacing. The ship's hull pulsed with galaxy-like marks, alive with the energy of past trials. But now a new presence stirred, lighter yet haunting. Captain Marcus Hale gripped the wheel, his beard flecked with frost, his eyes sharp but weary from the abyss's weight. "This sea's too calm," he said, voice gruff. "After that black hole, I don't trust it." The horizon shimmered, where sea and sky blurred into a haze of starlight. Tim, the young mechanic, emerged from the engine room, his freckled face pale, eyes shadowed from the secrets he carried. "Engines are steady," he said, clutching his wrench. "But they're humming different, like they're singing." His voice was quiet, the abyss's truths still heavy in his mind. Lila, her star pendant glowing faintly, stared at the sky. Her gift for seeing the unseen made her pause. "The ghosts are back," she whispered. "But they're different. They're starry, like they're part of the cosmos now." Elena nodded, her heart tight. The Keeper had warned of 12. Trials and the abyss was the 7th. This, the return of the ghosts in a new form, was the 8th. "We face them together," she said, her voice steady despite the chill in her bones. "They're not our enemies. They're part of this." That night, the ghosts appeared, not as pale shadows, but as figures woven from starlight, their forms shimmering with colors, blue, gold, silver. They walked the decks, no longer bound to the ship's halls, but floating, their eyes bright like tiny suns. A woman in a flowing dress drifted past Elena, her smile kind but distant. A child ghost, clutching a glowing toy, laughed softly, the sound like bells in the void. They were the passengers of the old Titanic, but changed, as if the stars had claimed them. Elena gathered the crew on the bridge, lanterns casting a warm glow. "They're not trapped anymore," she said, pointing to the map. "The Soul's Haven freed most of them, but these stayed. They're tied to the stars now." Hale rubbed, his beard uneasy. "They don't look angry, but I don't trust ghosts, starry or not. What do they want?" Lila's pendant pulsed. "They're here to help," she said. "I see it. Paths through the stars, routes we can't find alone. They know the way." Tim shifted, his wrench tapping his leg. "Help? Last time they threw stuff. That angry captain's still out there, isn't he?" Elena unrolled the map. It showed a path weaving through a cluster of stars with new words. "Trust the light, guide the lost." She took a deep breath. "There are guides. To the Star's Embrace. We need them." The ghosts grew bolder, their forms clearer under the starlit sky. A man in a suit, his face glowing, appeared to Hale, pointing to a gap in the sky where comets swirled. "Follow," he said, voice like a breeze. Hale hesitated, then turned the wheel, steering toward the gap. The sea parted smoothly, waves, glowing brighter, as if the ghost's light fueled the ship. Lila worked with a woman ghost, her dress shimmering like a nebula. The ghost showed her visions, star paths, safe routes through reefs of light that would have torn the ship apart. Lila sketched them, her hand steady, her pendant warm. "They're teaching us," she said, "how to sail the cosmos." Tim found a child ghost in the engine room, its form flickering like a candle. It pointed to a panel, showing him how to adjust the engines to pull more power from the stars. "They're like me," Tim said, grinning despite his fear. "They like fixing things." But not all ghosts were kind. The angry captain from before returned, his form darker, edged with red light, like a dying star. He appeared in the grand staircase, his eyes burning. "You don't belong here," he hissed, his voice shaking the walls. "This ship is mine." Hale faced him, knife drawn. "You're done, old man. This is our ship now." The ghost lunged, but Hale stood firm, his courage a shield. The crew joined him, their voices united, chanting, "Leave us!" The ghost screamed, fading, but his red eyes lingered, promising return. The kind ghosts rallied, their light pushing back the dark. They guided the ship through a maze of stars, comets streaking past, their trails like fire. The sea glowed, reflecting the sky, and the ship sailed faster, engines singing with cosmic power. One night, the ghosts led them to a floating island, not stone but light, its surface shimmering like a star. The crew rowed ashore, the air warm, humming with energy. The island was covered in ruins, Gothic arches made of glowing crystal, etched with star maps. A ghost woman, her form bright as a supernova, waited. "You've come far," she said. "We were promised the stars, but we sank. You've given us a new path." Elena stepped forward, map in hand. "What do you need from us?" The ghost smiled. "Guide us to the embrace. We'll guide you in return." They returned to the ship, the ghosts trailing like a comet's tail. The map glowed, showing the path to the star's embrace. A ring of stars, pulsing with light, floating above the sea. The ghost's light merged with the ship's, making the hull shine like a beacon. But the angry captain struck again. He appeared in the engine room, his form a storm of red and black. He smashed pipes, steam hissing, sparks flying. Tim fought back, swinging his wrench, but the ghost was too strong. Lila's pendant flared, and she chanted words from the map, her voice joined by the kind ghosts. The angry captain roared, then faded, his power weakened. The crew reached the star's embrace at dawn, a circle of stars brighter than any sun. The sea below glowed gold, the air filled with a song like a choir of light. The ghosts gathered on the deck, their forms merging with the starlight, becoming part of the sky. The woman ghost lingered, smiling. "Thank you," she said, then dissolved into sparkles. But the angry captain's shadow remained, a faint red glow on the horizon. "He's not gone," Lila said, her voice small. "He's waiting." The ship sailed out of the embrace, the sea calmer, the sky alive with new galaxies. The map glowed, showing the next path, labeled "The Light's Price." Elena wrote in her journal, "The ghosts helped us, but the angry one lingers. The stars welcome us, but the curse is still here. We sail on, stronger but wary." The crew gathered, their bond tight. Hale thanked the ghosts, his voice steady. Tim fixed the damaged pipes, his confidence growing. Lila sketched the star paths, her visions clearer. Elena read from the map, promising they'd face the next trial together. As night fell, the sea sparkled with new stars, and the Titanic sailed faster, engines humming with the ghost's light. The Gothic dread clung to the ship, but the cosmic wonder of the star's embrace pushed them forward toward the next test, where the stars would demand more. Chapter 10. The Sacrifice of Light. The Titanic sailed through a sea that glowed like liquid fire, waves rippling with colors, gold, blue, violet, as if the cosmos had spilled its paint across the water. The sky above was a dazzling swirl of stars, so bright they hurt to look at, spinning in patterns that seemed to whisper secrets. The air was warm, heavy with a scent like burning sugar and old roses, sweet yet sharp. Elena Thorne stood at the iwi bow, her dark hair catching the starlight, clutching the ancient map. Its star paths shone fiercely, pointing to a place labeled the Light's Price, a name that stirred both hope and fear in her chest. The ship's hull pulsed with galaxy-like marks, alive with the energy of past trials, but now a new presence loomed, radiant yet daunting. Captain Marcus Hale gripped the wheel, his beard flecked with frost despite the warm air, his eyes sharp, but tired. "This sea's too bright," he said, voice gruff, like it's hiding something. The horizon glowed, a line of light where sea and sky melted together, impossible to read. Tim, the young mechanic, climbed up from the engine room, his freckled face flushed, hands smudged with grease. "Engines are humming strong," he said, clutching his wrench. "But they're pulling power from the light out there. It's like they're drinking it." His voice held a mix of awe and unease, the abyss's secret still heavy in his mind. Lila, her star pendant warm against her, skin stared at the sky. Her gift for seeing the unseen made her tremble. "Something's coming," she whispered. "A being of light, bigger than the ghosts, stronger than the abyss. It wants something from us." Elena nodded, her heart pounding. The keeper had warned of 12 trials, and the starry ghosts were the 8th. This, the radiant presence ahead, was the 9th. "We stay together," she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "The map's guiding us. We trust it." That night, the sea grew brighter, waves glowing like molten gold. The sky pulsed, stars forming a vast ring ahead, its light so intense it cast no shadows. The ship sailed toward it, drawn like a moth to a flame. The air hummed, a low song that vibrated in their bones, not threatening, but commanding. The crew gathered on the deck, lanterns dimmed by the starlight, their faces pale but determined. A figure appeared in the sky. Not a ghost, but something else, a being of pure light, its form shifting like a flame, tall as the ship's funnels. Its eyes were twin suns, blazing yet calm, and its voice filled their minds, warm but firm. "You seek the stars," it said, "but the light demands a sacrifice. What will you give?" Elena stepped forward, clutching the map, its glow matching the being's light. "We want to sail on, to understand the cosmos," she said, her voice steady. "What do you ask?" The being's light flared, bathing the ship in warmth. "One must give a piece of their soul. Choose, or the light will take all." The crew froze, their breaths catching. Lila's pendant burned, her eyes wide with visions. "I see it," she whispered. "The sacrifice. It's not death, but loss. Something precious." Hale gripped his knife, his jaw tight. "No one's giving anything. We fight." Tim shook his head, clutching his wrench. "Fight, Light? How?" Elena looked at the map. New words appeared. "Give to gain or lose all." Her heart sank. "It's the trial," she said. "We can't avoid it." Lila stepped forward, her braids swaying, her face calm but pale. "I'll do it," she said. "My gift, my visions. They've guided us, but they're heavy. I'll give them to the light." Elena grabbed her arm. "Lila, no. We need you." Lila smiled, her pendant glowing. "You need me strong, not broken. This is my choice." The crew protested, but Lila was firm. She walked to the bow, facing the light being. "Take my gift," she said, her voice clear. "Let my friends pass." The being's eyes flared and a beam of light wrapped Lila, lifting her slightly off the deck. She gasped, her pendant shining like a star, then dimming. Visions flashed in her mind, stars, seas, futures, then faded, leaving only calm. The light being spoke, its voice softer. "Your sacrifice is accepted. The path is open." Lila stumbled, caught by Elena and Tim. Her eyes were clear but different, no longer seeing the unseen. "It's gone," she whispered, touching her pendant. "But I feel lighter." The star ring parted, revealing a sea of pure light, waves dancing with colors. The ship sailed through, the engines humming with the being's energy. The sky cleared, showing new galaxies, their spirals welcoming. The hull's galaxy marks glowed brighter, as if the sacrifice had strengthened the ship. But the cost lingered. Lila sat quietly, her hands empty without her visions. The crew gathered around her, their bond tighter. "You're still you," Elena said, squeezing her hand. "We'll carry you now." Hale nodded, his voice gruff. "You're tougher than any of us, kid."
Islamic influences via texts like Avicenna's had little impact here, as the touch was uniquely Christian. As you leave the hall, coin clutched tightly, your sores still ache, but hope flickers. Does the king's touch truly heal, or is it a fleeting comfort in a world of suffering? What drove this ritual's hold over the sick, and how did it shape their trust in both monarchy and medicine? You're trudging back to your village, Agnes, the king's coin heavy in your pocket, your scrofulous sores still tender but no worse. The memory of Edward III's touch brief, solemn, almost otherworldly, lingers, as does the crowd's fervent hope. In this 14th century England, the royal touch was more than a healing ritual. It was a spectacle of faith and power, weaving monarchy, religion, and medicine into a potent symbol of survival. For people like you, it offered a glimmer of relief where physicians often failed, revealing the era's complex interplay of belief and desperation. The royal touch's allure stemmed from its divine framing. Monarchs, anointed at coronation with holy oil, were seen as conduits of God's grace, a belief rooted in Frankish traditions and reinforced by the Church. Chronicles, like those of the Anomaly Chronicle, describe Edward III touching hundreds at Westminster, each ceremony steeped in ritual prayers, hymns, and almsgiving. The king's touch was not random. Court officials screened the sick, ensuring only those with scrofula, marked by visible swellings, received it. Your journey, Agnes, was vetted by a local priest, your sores proof of need, a process that lent the ritual credibility. The practice was a communal lifeline. Villages sent their sick, pooling resources. Your neighbors gifted you bread for the road. Royal records from the period show kings touching up to 1,500 people yearly, distributing coins stamped with angels, believed to amplify the cure. Some, as noted in monastic accounts, reported shrinking sores or renewed strength, fueling tales of miracles. The placebo effect, or natural remission, likely played a role, but failures were common. Many, like you, felt no immediate change, yet clung to hope. The ritual's social power was undeniable, binding peasants to the crown, as seen in accounts of crowds cheering their healer king. Risks were real. Crowded ceremonies spread infections, including scrofula itself, a fact unnoted by medieval observers blind to germs. Medical skeptics, like John of Gedustin, questioned the touch's efficacy, advocating herbal salves instead, but their voices were drowned by popular faith. Islamic medicine, with its focus on observation, had little influence here, as the touch was a Christian rite. Women, like you, faced added scrutiny, their ailments sometimes tied to moral failings. Yet the ritual's inclusivity offered rare access to royal care. As you rub your neck, the sores unchanged, You wonder if the king's divine power will manifest, or if faith alone must sustain you. The coin, a tangible link to the ritual, feels like both promise and burden. How did this practice, blending spectacle and solace, endure despite its uncertain outcomes? And what did it reveal about the bond between rulers and the ruled? Months later, Agnes, you're milking cows again. Your neck's sores slightly smaller, though whether from the king's touch or time's mercy is unclear. The pilgrimage to London, the weight of Edward III's hand, and the coin you now wear as an amulet remain vivid symbols of hope in a world of suffering. The royal touch at its peak was a cornerstone of medieval life, blending divine authority with communal resilience. Its decline and legacy reveal how ordinary people like you sought healing through faith, shaping a ritual that bridged medicine and monarchy. The royal touch's zenith spanned centuries, peaking in England under the Plantagenets and in France under the Capetians. Royal accounts, like those of Edward III's exchequer, document thousands touched annually, with ceremonies held on holy days like Easter. Success stories, swellings fading, as noted in Canterbury's monastic records, fueled its fame. Though modern analysis suggests spontaneous remission or misdiagnosis of non-tuberculous ailments, the poor, like you, were its primary recipients, their journeys funded by village alms, making the touch a rare democratic ritual. Your coin, an angel worth a few pence, was both alms and talisman, worn by many to prolong the cure's effect. The risks were subtle but real. Crowds at Westminster or Paris spread disease, a fact unrecorded but likely given scrofulous, contagious nature. Failures were quietly accepted chronicles, rarely mention the untouched, like those who died en route. The church's endorsement, tying healing to divine right, overshadowed medical doubts, though figures like William of Ockham questioned its theological basis. The ritual's power lay in its social role, reinforcing loyalty to the crown, unlike Islamic medical systems, which prioritized empirical remedies. The touch was purely symbolic, its efficacy rooted in belief. By the 15th century, the ritual waned. The Reformation and scientific advances, like Vesalius's anatomical studies, eroded faith in divine healing. In England, the touch persisted into the 18th century under the Stuarts, but skepticism grew. Samuel Johnson, touched as a child, later scoffed at its value. Its legacy lies in the placebo effect's power and the social bonds it forged, echoing in modern faith-based healing. Your story, Agnes, captures a moment when hope trumped evidence, uniting communities in a shared quest for relief. The royal touch reveals humanity's yearning for miracles amid medical limits. It shaped lives, from dairymaids like you to kings wielding divine authority, and prompts reflection. How do we balance faith in healing with the need for proof? Your amulet, a relic of that royal moment, embodies resilience, reminder that even flawed rituals can sustain hope, driving humanity to seek cures beyond the grasp of science. Story 10. Corpse, medicine, cannibalistic cures, from mummies to blood picture. Yourself as Clara, a merchant's wife in 16th century London. Your body racked by seizures that leave you trembling and weak. Desperate, you visit an apothecary, Master Thomas, whose shop smells of dust and decay. He offers a powder made from ground Egyptian mummy sprinkled into wine, to calm your fits. This is corpse medicine, a gruesome yet widespread practice in medieval and early modern Europe, where human remains, mummies, blood, and bones were consumed as cures. This macabre remedy, rooted in ancient beliefs, reveals the era's desperate faith in the body's healing power. Even after death, corpse medicine emerged from a mix of alchemy, folklore, and medical theory. Ancient texts, like those of Pliny the Elder, described human blood as a cure for epilepsy, while Islamic physicians like Avicenna used processed remains for vitality. By the Middle Ages, Europe embraced mumia, a tar-like substance from embalmed Egyptian mummies, believed to transfer life force. Apothecaries ground mummies into powder, mixed it with pitch, or distilled it into oils for ailments from bruises. 2 plagues. In your time, Clara, the practice peaked, driven by trade routes bringing mummies from Alexandria and a growing demand for exotic cures. In Master Thomas's shop, shelves hold jars of brownish mumia alongside fresher relic skulls or fat from executed criminals prized for their vital spirit. He prepares your dose, stirring mummy powder into a goblet of wine, its gritty texture catching in your throat as you drink. The practice wasn't limited to the elite. Apothecaries served merchants, artisans, and even the poor, bartering cures for goods. A 16th century London pharmacopoeia lists mumia for seizures, wounds, and fevers, while blood from beheadings was drunk fresh for epilepsy. As noted in chronicles like those of John Stowe, the trade was grim but thriving. Mummies, looted from Egyptian tombs, flooded Europe, while local corpses, often from gallows supplied, apothecaries, the poor, like you, accessed these through charity or barter. A loaf of bread for a dose. Risks were high. Contaminated remains spread disease, and overdoses caused nausea or worse. Yet some reported relief, likely from placebo effects or trace minerals in mumia. The practice's acceptance, blending Christian resurrection beliefs with medical need, made it a staple, though skeptics like Ambroise Pare questioned its ethics. As you swallow the bitter wine, Clara, your seizures seem to pause, but unease lingers. Does this dust of ancient dead truly heal, or is it a ghoulish placebo? What drove people to consume human remains, and how did this practice shape their understanding of life and death? You're back in Master Thomas's shop, Clara, the taste of mummy-laced wine still sharp on your tongue. Your seizures have lessened, but a queasy tremor persists, perhaps from the cure itself. In this 16th century London, corpse medicine was not just a remedy, but a cultural obsession, blending reverence for the body with a grim pragmatism. From powdered mummies to fresh blood, apothecaries like Thomas wielded human remains as potent cures. Their shops a bridge between the living and the dead, revealing the era's desperate ingenuity in the face of illness. Corpse medicine's popularity stemmed from a belief in the body's lingering vitality. Medical texts, like Paracelsus's writings, argued that human remains, especially from those who died violently, retained a spirit transferable to the sick. Mumia was the star imported from Egypt, or faked with local corpses. It was ground into salves, drunk in tonics, or applied to wounds. Blood, too, was prized. Executioners sold vials from beheadings, as seen in accounts from Tyburn, where crowds gathered for fresh cures. Skulls, powdered into cranium humanome, treated headaches, while fat was smeared on joints, as detailed in apothecary ledgers from the period. The practice was a communal affair. Apothecaries served all classes, bartering with the poor, like you for cloth or labor. A 16th century record from St. Bartholomew's Hospital shows patients treated with mumia for epilepsy, some reporting fewer fits. The trade relied on grim supply chains, mummies from looted tombs, corpses from gallows or battlefields. Women, often herbalists, prepared these remedies when apothecaries were scarce, their role noted in household recipe books. Islamic influences. Via al-Majusi's texts shaped the use of processed remains, emphasizing their alchemical power. Risks were stark. Contaminated mumia carried infections, and blood drinking led to vomiting or worse, as noted in a 1580s case where a patient died from tainted corpse fat. Yet successes, real or imagined, sustained the practice. The placebo effect, or perhaps anti-inflammatory properties in aged remains, gave hope. Your relief, Clara, may stem from such mysteries, bolstered by Thomas's assurances and your own faith. The Church, despite unease, tolerated corpse medicine, seeing it as a use of God's creation. Though ethical debates simmered among physicians like Guy Patton, as Thomas prepares another dose, your stomach churns at the thought of more mummy dust. The seizures wane, but at what cost? How did this macabre practice, so widely accepted, balance healing with horror? And what did it reveal about humanity's willingness to blur the line between life and death for survival? Months later, Clara, you're in your merchant's home, your seizures rarer, though whether from the mummy powder or time's grace is unclear. The gritty wine, the apothecary's jars of ancient remains, linger in your mind, a testament to survival in a world where healing often meant embracing the grotesque. Corpse medicine, at its peak, was a bizarre cornerstone of 16th century medicine, its decline marking a shift toward skepticism and science. Its legacy, woven into the lives of people like you, reveals humanity's resilience and the strange paths taken to conquer illness. At its height, corpse medicine was ubiquitous. Apothecary records from London show thousands treated yearly with mumia blood or skull powder for ailments from epilepsy to gout. Pharmacopoeias, like that of Nicholas Culpeper, listed recipes: mummy for bruises, human fat for rheumatism, by merchants and laborers alike. The poor, like you, bartered for doses, while nobles sought imported mumia, costing a shilling per ounce, as noted in trade logs. Successes, like reduced seizures, were celebrated, likely due to placebo effects or natural remission, though failures, infections, or poisoning were common, as seen in a 1590s case of a child sickened by tainted blood. The practice's communal role was vital. Execution sites became pharmacies, with crowds collecting blood, as chronicled by John Webster. Women, often excluded from guilds, prepared corpse-based salves, their recipes preserved in family books. The trade's grim logistics, mummies smuggled from Egypt, corpses sourced from gallows-fed, a thriving market, though supply shortages led to fraud, with bitumen passed off as mumia. Islamic alchemy, via texts like those of Jabir ibn Hayyan, shaped its use, but Christian Europe adapted it, framing human remains as sacred relics. By the late 17th century, corpse medicine declined. Enlightenment thinkers like Robert Boyle questioned its efficacy and autopsies revealed no vital spirit in remains. Chemical drugs and herbal remedies gained favor, though Mamiya lingered in rural areas. Its legacy echoes in modern pharmacology, where tissue-based therapies draw on similar principles. Your story, Clara, captures a moment when faith in the dead's power sustained hope, uniting communities in a shared, if gruesome, quest for health. Corpse medicine's bizarre history prompts reflection. What drives us to embrace such extreme cures? Your survival, marked by the strange taste of mummy, reflects humanity's willingness to cross moral and physical boundaries for healing. The resilience of those who consumed the dead, trusting in their power, underscores a timeless drive to endure, reminding us that even the darkest remedies can illuminate the human spirit's unyielding. Hope. Story 11. Purging the humors, enemas, and laxatives in monastic medicine. You, our brother Simon, a novice monk in a 12th century Benedictine monastery in France. Your body weakened by a persistent bloating and lethargy that disrupts your prayers. The infirmarian brother Gerard diagnoses an excess of black bile, a humoral imbalance, and prescribes a regimen of purgicinomas and laxative herbs to cleanse your body. In the cloistered world of monastic medicine, purges were a cornerstone of healing, their gruesome intimacy a daily ritual for monks and layfolk alike. This practice, rooted in ancient medical theory, reveals the medieval obsession with purging the body to restore spiritual and physical harmony. Purging was central to medieval medicine, grounded in the humoral theory of Hippocrates and Galen, which held that health depended on balancing blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Enemas and laxatives, believed to expel corrupt humors, were detailed in texts like the Regimen Sanitatis Salernitanum, a Salerno medical school guide. Monastic infirmaries, like yours, were hubs of such care, treating monks and local villagers. Enemas, administered with a clystera, syringe-like tube of bone or metal delivered herbal infusions, while laxatives, like rhubarb or senna, were steeped in ale or broth in the infirmary. A stone-walled room, fragrant with chamomile and mint. Gerard prepares your purge. He mixes a decoction of mallow and fennel, pouring it into a pig's bladder attached to a clyster. You lie on a cot, the cold tube inserted with practiced care, the warm liquid flooding your bowels to evacuate the bile. Later, he offers a bitter senna draught, its taste masked with honey. These treatments, routine in monasteries, were seen as purifying, aligning the body with the soul's discipline. Monastic records, like those from Cluny, show monks receiving weekly purges to maintain health, a practice extended to peasants, like local farmers who sought care. Purging was accessible, requiring only herbs and simple tools, making it vital for the poor. Monasteries offered it freely, bartering with villagers for eggs or wool. Risks were real. Excessive purging caused dehydration or bowel damage, as noted in a 12th century case of a monk weakened fatally by overuse. Yet, successes relief from bloating or fevers bolstered its use, likely due to clearing infections or placebo effects. Islamic medicine, via Avicenna's canon, refined herbal recipes, influencing monastic practice. As the purge takes effect, Simon, your body writhes, but relief follows. Yet, the ordeal raises doubts. Does this cleansing truly restore balance, Or is it a harsh ritual of faith? What drove monks to embrace such invasive cures, and how did they shape the lives of those seeking solace in the cloister? You're back in the monastery infirmary, Brother Simon, the sharp cramp of the enema fading as Brother Gerard checks your pulse, his face calm but stern. The senna draft lingers bitterly, but your bloating has eased, a faint sign of progress. In this 12th century French cloister, purges, enemas, and laxatives were not just medical acts, but spiritual discipline, aligning the body's humors with the soul's purity. Their routine use in monastic medicine, from monks like you to village petitioners, reveals a world where healing was both communal and invasive, blending faith with the gritty realities of survival. The prominence of purging stemmed from its role in humoral theory. Monastic physicians like Gerard believed that expelling excess humors, especially black bile, linked to melancholy restored health and devotion. Texts like Hildegard of Bingen's Physica detailed herbal purges, prescribing plants like cassia or aloe for their evacuative power. Enemas, more forceful, used infusions of mallow, chamomile, or even animal bile, delivered via clysters, crafted from horn or pewter. The process was meticulous. Gerard warms the liquid to body temperature, ensuring the bladder's flow is steady to avoid rupture. A technique honed through Islamic texts like Al-Zarawi's surgical manuals. Purging was a shared ritual. Monasteries, as centers of charity, treated villagers alongside monks, their infirmaries bustling with patients. Records from St. Gall show hundreds receiving purges yearly, some relieved of digestive woes or fevers, their gratitude cementing the monastery's role. For you, Simon, the treatment is part of monastic life. Weekly purges were prescribed to prevent illness, as noted in the Rule of Saint Benedict. Women, often herbalists, aided in preparing laxatives, their knowledge vital. When monks were overwhelmed, though rarely recorded, the poor bartered goods, your neighbor's cheese, for a clyster-making. Purging, a communal lifeline. Risks loomed large. Overzealous purging led to weakness or internal injury. A. Sharar, Century Chronicle from Jomages, describes a monk dying after excessive enemas, yet successes clearing infections or relieving constipation sustained faith in the practice. The placebo effect, or dietary improvements, often played a role unnoted by healers. Islamic influences via translations in Toledo enriched recipes, but errors persisted in dosing, especially in rural cloisters lacking precise scales. As Gerard prepares another clyster, you brace for its discomfort, your body lighter but weary. The purge's relief feels fleeting, raising questions about its true power. How did this invasive ritual, so central to monastic life, balance healing with harm? And what did it reveal about the trust placed in healers like Gerard by those seeking their care?